we are here with Kim from Möll. And we will talk a bit about your project, we will talk about a bit your music and Århus scene, because we have been covering a lot Copenhagen, and Copenhagen it's always considered influenced by Germany or influenced by the Central Europe, while actually Århus, it's a different place, right?
It is. I think Århus is, well, that's the city that I live in, and it's the city where I ended up joining the guys from Möll back in 2017. And I've been active in the scene for a long time. Before Möll, I used to play in some technical death metal bands and hardcore as well. And I joined Möll in 2017. That must have been the year where I kind of like had an existential crisis. I also had half a year of sick leave for my day job and my studies at that time. I studied social science, so our first album came out, at least for my part, came out of a time of, I think, a lot of distress, but when I joined, I felt the scene in general in Århus was sprawling with a lot of really good acts. I was really active as a concert and event photographer at that time, both at Vauxhall and at Radar. So there was like a lot of new bands in the scene at that time.
To introduce Vauxhall, it's one of the main places in Århus for live music and underground music. They have probably the most interesting concerts when it comes to alternative music, and it's very much the core of this student and more like international and local type of music.
I actually worked at both Radar Live and at Vauxhall as a venue photographer at that time, volunteering. So I went to see a lot of music, and in my opinion, Vauxhall and Radar at that time kind of covered different tiers of bands. You would usually see touring acts go through Vauxhall with more like, bigger acts, like big tour packages with a lot of metalcore and a lot of hardcore or black metal for that matter. But Radar, in my opinion, is the venue where I felt most at home, mostly because it had such that venue and their bookings have always been really curious. So like at that venue I've seen Brutus, I've seen like they just booked Cult Leader, and they've had The Ocean come through as well,
and Berserk, I mean, many of the reality that are not from Copenhagen, they really gravitate around that space. And Århus, it's also a very special city. We will also dig a bit about you being a photographer there. You were from art school, or it was something you did as...
I was self-taught.
Self-taught?
Yeah. Like, I've always been hanging around with bands, both playing and used photography as a networking tool. So my friends in Unseen Faith are actually one of the guys or the bands that I've followed for some time. So when they needed some live footage or they needed a gig photographer while touring or anything like that, I would be on point. And I think it gave me a good insight to how the business works, how it feels to be a touring act. When you work as staff on a venue, you get to see, a lot of people here are volunteering. They're doing it for free, which means that you have to do it.
Like us already.
It's the
Dear director, we are doing it for free because we like metal.
Exactly. Well, that's what I like about what you would say it in Danish. You would call it vækstlag. So that means where things grow, that's a lot of the DIY scene.
Yeah.
A lot of passion comes out of that. But at that point, it kind of, I think for me, I just knew that my eye as a photographer was something some skills that I could own, and it was also my way to trying to figure out how does booking work, how does the scene work in general.
What is the life? Is this the life for you? Is the environment for you?
Yeah.
It's, well, I don't want to say toxic, but does it fit you or not?
Yeah, I would say it's when you're a touring musician, especially throughout Europe. My insight to working at a venue gave me a lot of know-how to how does it feel to have a tour package coming through that they don't treat this place like it's the last day on earth, but be respectful.
Exactly.
And it's a workspace for touring musicians.
Yeah.
And I would like to treat my workspace as a way that I could come back to the same place. Because when you tour, you end up in the same venues over and over again.
It became a network, especially Denmark is not very big. So when you base somewhere or when you tour in Denmark, you know that you are coming back there. And at a certain point in your career, in your life, or your passion. And that's also very speak to the feeling of community of Denmark. We don't want to go to socialistic speculation, but there is a lot the feeling of being a community, be respectful and take care of the community.
That's one of the reasons why I stayed at Radar and at Vauxhall for such a long time as a volunteer, because I really liked being there, and there was a great sense of community, and the venues knew that they, a lot of the people who came there were passionate about music. So we were a couple of event photographers working there and a couple of different staff members, and we all, knew how a metal night would look, how a hip-hop night would look, or how a jazz night. So you get to read the crowd and you get to find out, okay, so, well, maybe we should have the police in the backhand if it's a hip-hop gig, or something like that.
Or there be a place if it's a metal thing. Of course. Now, we will go very soon to your music per se, but something I would like to introduce about Århus is which type of city is that? Because it's a student city, it's not in Zealand, so it's not close to Sweden, it's close actually to Germany and toward the ocean, so toward England. And historically, in the Danish scene, especially for alternative music, was a bit the crossing point where students were experimenting a lot and importing music from England, from US, and from other places than Germany. So we have the Lost Boys, we had the Pedersen Brothers, we had so many bands already trying to do something American, English, Anglo-Saxon. And I think that it also applies to your music. It doesn't sound as German or Scandinavian, it actually have a big blend of more pop or more
Brit rock, actually.
Brit rock sounds.
Yeah, I think that goes back to Ken and Nikolai's songwriting. When they started out the band, they had a sense of genre interests that were not particularly metal. But they were, we're all huge fans of Slow Dive, Tears for Fears, a lot of I would say Brit rock sounding music. And there's just a lot of the sensibilities that cross over from shoegaze into post-rock, and that atmosphere spurred me on. As I took photos of Møl before I became a member, so I was really enthralled by the vibe in the music.
And it shines, because even today it really shines in the music, that it really have a rock foundation, and then there is some incursion from the drummer, from some chainsaw, from the guitar, but in reality still preserve a lot this bridge sound and this blend of things. And then it comes you, a crazy screamer.
Yeah. Well, to begin with, I actually wasn't that fond of incorporating Danish language into the mix, because I thought it sounded like a lot of... we have some punk groups or rock groups like Magtens Corridor here in Denmark, where I was like, it really sounds maybe something like that. But when listening to metal in... I had to. Well, the high pitch. I think the high pitch vocal suits the Danish language really well.
Yeah.
And I spend a lot of time with pronunciation, and I want people to know the words.
Yeah.
So how can you use that kind of emulation or distortion on your voice and still be
comprehensible?
Clear about your message, clear about what, you know. We play music that we, you know, it's not like a party band, but I like to connect with my audience as a frontman, where I, you know, they might not know the language, but they know the articulation, and there's an emotional exchange between audience and band that I find so inspiring and
intimate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, because when we toured the UK for the first time, we toured with Svalbard, and I remember talking to Serena at one point where she was like, okay, we we thought you were more shoegaze. We didn't think you were as had such you're wild, okay?
Yeah.
Live.
And it makes a lot of sense, because we will go into your performance at Copenhell. It really blew me away. But something that it's really noticeable. I mean, your records are very well constructed. We have 1 year. We're keeping a surprise, but it's here. It's Diorama. I think is your last record still, right, for Mole?
Yep.
And Diorama, we have been talking about that on our website already. I really like it, so I just put it in our favorite album right away. The editor was okay. Because Diorama, it have a lot of things going on. There's a lot of construction, a lot of layer, a lot of ideas, and they flow very well with your style. It's still very recognizable. But already from the very early works that were a bit more angry, maybe, you can still have a lot of melody going on. And that's actually something that I believe it really helped you in a way to have so much influence from different producers or different ideas that is outside metal. You recorded your previous album at Only Roll Records with Grape House of Copenhagen, which it's a label that it produces a lot of alternative, but doesn't necessarily produce metal only, right?
We got the chance to record at Grape House Studios, which Mew and a lot of other bands have recorded at, because Møl won the award as, what was it, Ken? High Voltage Award. Was it the yearly talent? Yeah, the best upcoming band of that year. So we got
we got a cash prize, so we could afford and record an EP, but like that we didn't do ourselves.
Yeah. So it essentially we had an estimate of days that we could record like a lot of the instrumentals right there, and then we went to work with Kreutzfeldt, who we've also been to, visit today to work on the new stuff for our. Yeah, that must be our third album. Yeah.
Yeah, you had 2 EPs, they became an album, then you had Jord and then Diorama, right? So third album, considering the 2 EP together. Or fifth, if you take the instrumental one, right?
Yeah.
Because they're also album.
Yeah.
What is this choice? Why you do instrumental album 1 year after you launch a new album?
Why do we do an instrumental?
Because you can.
I think it stands on its own legs. There's a different mood, vibe, feel to the album. I mean, it gets more personal in that way, but the other part has sort of different beauty to it.
So it's to give a different view, to be more versatile in your music. And honestly, for me, it was a great experience to listen to your instrumental album. I've been listening to this album for a long time, but I decided to write something about that when I listened to the instrumental version. For a good reason, because listening to the instrumental version, you really get a completely different view. Like, your voice is very energetic and really lift up, kind of tune on the energy into the album. But when you remove the voice, then you have a very ambient, almost Scandinavian rock melody, and the experience of scraping out the voice and focus on the melody give a completely different cut to what you do as a music. I was actually kind of, at least in my writing, and maybe I was completely off track, but it's about emotions, so we don't judge that. I was thinking that your instrumental one, it had some type of melancholy or some type of melody that rebound a lot with the Scandinavian or Nordic existentialism kind of music. And then when you add the voice, you have this kind of kick, this kind of rebellion to the night or the darkness of the winter. So it was actually something really, felt.
I think the instrumental version is really nice and really good because, like, one of the reasons why I like those editions is you can hear that the songs can actually stand on its own two and on its own merits without vocals. I think there's a lot of the instrumental layers that you get the experience to kind of dive deeper into and notice a lot of things. I'm pretty loud.
Yeah,
and I think it's rich when you can hear the songwriting is really good.
Yeah,
when
it is.
When you actually minus the voice, and that makes me. I might be the biggest fan of both Ken and Nikolai's songwriting because I get to hear the whole thing and get to contribute to something that has its own merit as a soundscape.
Yeah, we have Ken here that he was also talking from the back, and we will call you in. Hello.
Hey.
You will be called in because I want also to talk about your lyrics. But you can maybe, if you want to, you can join now. But you can also,
I don't have
as you
anything
like.
else to do, so I'll join.
Yeah, please. We can find a small spot on the camera. Doesn't matter if I'm a bit cut, but you get the scene, and I will just lean in a little bit. See, it works. We do it.
Works great.
We did it. Now, something interesting about the Diorama, it's also that you recorded with Nuclear Blast, so big label, and you recorded produced by Tu Madsen. How went with Tu Madsen, and how did it happen to get with him? Because Tu Madsen, he produced a lot of bands, not necessarily metal, and you have a very special personality, I heard, right?
He's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I think a lot of it was a big push, like, because now we suddenly have like sort of a budget to go to whichever we wanted to take. And some of my dream scenarios, like there's a few different producers in Denmark. He's one of them that I really wanted to try. He made some great stuff with like Nimic and also Raunchy. He did Death Pop Romance as well on that, and you can keep like say and he's been involved in like many
Sugar,
bands.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So how was to work with him? I mean, did you feel? I mean, was he giving tips to your music? Was he leading you, or you were just coming down with your things and say,
I think what
that's
Ture,
okay, well, let's put it on.
I think what Ture does really well is make the band sound flourish, or bring it out.
Because he doesn't give opinions on it, right? Like if I ask him what is best, A or B, he was like, "What do you think?" You know, it's like I need a freaking answer, right? But and I had to do it first because I was drummer, right? So we had to do the ground for everybody else, and not all of the songs were done when we got in the studio. So it's kind of like just get it out, you know, take whatever came out.
It's very much the Scandinavian way too. When I started my PhD, I was with my supervisor. So what we do today, I don't know, you tell me. Me? Really?
Yes, you might have an opinion, and opinions are actually important.
And they are, you just realize it after a little while. So, out of this disc you had 2 singles that absolutely rock, Vestige and Surf, and I think also a third one. And then you have 2 songs in which you have 2 great collaboration. One is Photophobic with Mirza
Garanjica, he's our manager, actually.
Is your manager?
He's our manager.
He's your manager. Okay, and the other one is when Katrin Scherfert and this Diorama, the album title song. Now, I saw Mirza at Copenhell. He was, I can't believe he's your manager.
He is.
Doesn't look like like a person managing a heavy metal.
We have a long relationship with Mirza.
Okay.
So when I came on, that's actually a funny thing. The reason I came on was because Mirza talked with Nikolai and Ken. They had a former vocalist called Steffen. He lived here in Copenhagen, and there was a lot of trouble with the enthusiasm with the project. So when they came looking for a vocalist, Mirza mentioned me. So it
tried you out and it worked out great. But I mean, he plays in Siamese as well, so you know, that's also pretty heavy in a different way.
It is indeed. And for Diorama, you had Katrin Scherfert. I really love their tracks. I want to also talk about your lyrics on the tracks. In general, but let's go with Katrin Scherfert. How did you decide to have a female voice to counterbalance you and to do this relatively long and complex track compared to the very sharp, like short and fat, like dance song you do?
I think before going to the studio with Ture, I made a lot of placeholders, vocal placeholders. At that time, I wasn't as strong in my clean voice as much as, and had as much confidence in it, because I know I'm really good at screaming, but the singing part has always been something that I've felt a lot of insecurity about. But Ture actually pushed me over the edge, because I had placeholders on the demos and he was like, "No, you do it." Really? Yeah, you do it. Take as long as you like, but you do it. Okay. But we wanted something to complement. Actually, to begin with, we have talked about.
We had like a few ideas of like who could actually fill in these kind of roles and what sounds we wanted on the album, and she was one of them. And when we thought we were just gonna get like a small feature, like maybe a few lines, and she came back with like such a well composed piece, and just like
her arrangement was amazing.
And then
I agree. I was very, very surprised for that track. I mean, I know your music, I like your music, so I was very happy when I saw a new album, and when I found that feature, I was absolutely say, okay, that's a step higher than everything I had before.
Something that really says a lot about her as well as like an artist is when we did the Copenhell. We had her featuring, and we had her flown over, and we had like 1 hour to sort of practice the set, and she just nailed it from the first second, exactly like the record. I was just like,
that's
she's better than us, you know. So like
that's musicianship.
It was a crazy show, and I really will ask you what his energy is for you, because energy was very much there in that show. But without losing ourselves too much, I want to know about this picture. Is one of your pictures? Or
our trusty visual wizard, Jon Gottlieb, who
Okay.
did your artwork as well.
Yeah.
He did this. He plays in Hierarchy.
And
Yeah,
former
Keith-
Lisa Stille,
Yeah,
which is
okay,
where
Lisa
I was really inspired and wanted him to work because I really like his
Sorry, can you
artwork.
repeat the name?
Lisa Stille?
Yeah, that,
Lisa Stille.
Yeah.
that was his first band. So Jon Gottlieb, No Heroes. That's his company.
Former company, I think.
Really? But Jon
Hire
Gottlieb,
him.
he's the guy. We have really enjoyed working with him. He also did the video for York.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Does this picture have a story with the tracks in the album, or with the album, or is just a picture you really like and fit the mood?
I went to him with my lyrics prior to recording everything. So with the lyrics and some of the demos, and we've always wanted to give him like
His interpretation. Of it, right?
his interpretation of what he. So we went from with we went from something that was way more geometry. So we wanted something soft and more vibrant and more organic. So I think.
And the circle is also representing the sort of diorama feel of it.
Exactly.
And then we had like a few vibes of like something very classical, and I think it kind of has Joy Division vibes. I cannot remember what that album is called now. But
the
something
lines.
like something representing and like all
Ripples.
they're not really straight, right? They're crooked and hard and twisted.
For me, it was very much this centerpiece that feels like a bit like a dawn or a sunset, and compared to the previous one in which you had the mule, the nocturnal fly, moth, and plays on the moth. I think here there was more like an intimate atmosphere that really bound well with the new sonority that are a bit more meditative. So let's talk about meditation and your text, like your lyrics, because I feel like you have been playing very introspectively, both in Photophobics, maybe not in Serve that is a bit rock, but especially in Diorama you have this inner tree. So what was the catch over these lyrics? Maybe you can tell us a bit. You wrote them, or you were into that, right?
I'm more in the instrumental part. It's actually Kim who writes the lyrics.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned earlier in this interview about your coming out of like a kind of an existential crisis. So I used to be a believer. At one point, I was brought up in a Christian home, and I've been my family has been in and out through different religious environments, and your kind of was my way of reconciling myself with the thought of ending up in the ground and maybe not some heaven someday. So that's as basic as it can get, you know.
The existential drive.
So Diorama is actually that is. I was after your like, okay, so if this was my angry letter to God, then if He is not real, then what are you left with? And for me, it was sort of like, okay, I've spent most of my life training for a utopia that might not happen.
Yeah.
So what do you end up with? You end up with relations. You end up with your family, the people that you spend time with on this earth for a short while.
Yeah.
So Diorama is actually it my cultural hook for the title also came out of watching and rewatching Hereditary, the movie by Ari Aster, a lot of times. I went to the theater and saw it 4 times on my like 2 times with some friends and 2 times on my own.
Sort of like self-exploration, right?
Yeah.
Or looking down what is me, you know.
It was therapeutic because.
So Hereditary. Can you talk a bit about this movie very briefly?
Yeah.
What is the content, just for the people who are listening here?
Yeah.
We will put a link in the comment and in the article. But good to know for the talk.
Hereditary is a movie about an artist that makes miniature versions, 3D representations of pretty traumatic events in her life. She recreates it, and she, in full scale. So she has different scenarios planted around her attic with, like different events that has happened in her life, where she's turning it from each side, looking at it from different angles, and diving deep into that. She ends up being possessed by her history, and as really traumatic things happen in her life, she starts making these. So it spoke so much to me, because I've lived some life up until that point, and it made me use the album as a framework to actually start conversations with my parents. Instead of being like, "You've been a shit,"
yeah, of course,
and but I love you, but I also hate you. It's way more easy to have like a kid's drawing in front of and be like, okay, this is. Can we talk about my perspective and what I've experienced throughout living surviving in this family? So that was my initial thoughts. Like, I used it as a therapeutic piece to kind of talk about really hard things presented in a beautiful but also really terrifying way.
So in a certain way, was the rite of passage when you detach, or where you cut your ties with the family you attached securely when you were a kid, and then you start to develop your own life as a person that will offer attachment.
I needed a new relationship with my parents in some sense, and for that to happen, I needed to dive into and find out. I've been in and out of. I've been used to having my history erased every third or fourth year.
Okay.
Coming from one cult to another, and a second, and then. So for me, this was a way to address the part of me.
We start from here.
Yeah.
Like, from here is mine.
No. I wanted to acknowledge the parts that has gone before, because
try and get out of it and looking at it, right?
Mm-hmm. Because
so a certain way was somatizing a bit your spiritual development and your personal history in a way, to create something physical out of that.
I think at least it was a way to put my emotions into like a certain concrete way to address things, so I could get on with my life. And that's why it ended up becoming something more than just a piece of music for me. It became a part of my family's history, and that was not my intention at all.
No, but I mean, so let's face it. I can really feel that you put something personal in your music. That's why we are here today, and that's why I wanted to give you space to tell your story. But almost every artist in the underground, or when they do it for passion, it's because they have something they want to, in a certain way, put on a surface, make it their own, and eventually play your work on that, like an outlet to be able to talk about their feeling, their fears, their existential dread. Fear of death, everybody, also that guy walking in the street is feeling. But of course, some people may need an outlet, or may have the sensibility to let it out and share it with other people. I cannot sing, I cannot play, I can only question people, but everybody finds his way, right?
I felt that
you can learn it yourself, right? You're audit-taught, I'm self-taught. So.
Yeah, well, I think the Copenhell experience was actually a really bonding experience for me, because that was the first time that we performed Diorama, that track, live.
Okay, the very first time.
Very first time. And I've pushed it in front of me for the whole time, because I felt it was such a hard song to play.
And it was an absolutely special event to play that song. I mean, I didn't know that was your first time, but it really felt that something was going on that stage. That was not only, go there, deliver the concert, go home, people are happy. And that's also impressed me in the way that you really try to seek a connection with the public several times during the act. And of course, it could be seen like a gimmick, like, oh, I do stage diving, that's so cool, or he's coming and like the people. But it really felt like you wanted to create something more personal connection, and that was not just jolly, funky type of feeling. For you, really felt like
for me,
personal connection.
It is physically touching people and knowing you. I feel the same way as you do. I've been in a place working in churches and stuff like that, feeling that I betrayed my audience by being the person manipulating their feelings to when it comes to the altar call and we can donate to this. I feel way more honest about myself in this way, that people come to a concert with Møl and they willfully get influenced by our music. So it's something that we share.
Yeah, and it's also a media to share yourself, share your message, share your inner world. And I don't want to go religious. Of course, I grown up Catholic, so I had also my share of Bible in a way. But it's also this Jesus guy was a bit more like a reckless guy going a bit against the pre-order. So there was a lot also in that sense, the idea of being to bringing a story to the people, to be within the people, and to just detach also from the organized cult, right? So I can understand that for you, the connection you have with your public and with the people listen to you, it might be a way for you to bring your message. I'm not saying you are the Messiah, but maybe just an naughty boy.
For me, it's
troublemaker.
For me, it's about feeling. Yeah. It's about, we all carry trauma with us, and as people living in, at least for the age that I represent, I'm 34 years old. At that concert, I connected with people that were my father's age, that I could see. I felt Diorama was the most quiet song that has ever been played at Copenhell, with so much. There was a lot of respect about that song.
Anticipation.
Yeah, exactly. And you could just see people feel that, and that affected me really much.
Honestly, that concert, for people who haven't heard our report before, it's also only in Italian right now. I will write it in English too before Copenhell next year, 24. But you had a relatively small stage in a closing area, sort of, because it was like an hill and a fence, and then you had a relatively small stage. So actually there was a very big crowd, and we were very close to each other. So it really felt like a borderline type of feeling. Wasn't the huge concert and wasn't the open field. It was like a very intimate kind of corner of Copenhagen. So I think it really worked everything well with that. I really had the impression that it was just the perfect things on the perfect time, with people who wanted to be there only. There was no one there that didn't want to be to your concert. There was a big group playing also at the same time.
We actually did a live recording of that, so you can find that on YouTube if you're interested.
And we posted it in an article. Cxnnor. Let's talk about the guy. I love the song that you did with him. Sunwalker, is it correct?
John Cxnnor is a project that I'm involved with. That's the guys from LNNN.
Yeah.
And John Cxnnor is built around the thematics of Terminator universe.
Yeah.
So that is a collective. I've been involved with those guys because we did a performance at Roadburn last year, in April, we opened the main stage, and that was pretty immense. So Andreas Bjølver from Cabal and Maj Øvlesen from Media and Victor Kås from LNN and from ICE were on as well. So it's a collaboration between different vocalists. And Martin Nielsgaard as well from the side project as well. And Jon, who did the artwork here from Hierarchy, is also featured. So John Cxnnor is one of the coolest industrial projects I've ever come across in Denmark.
I really look forward to his concert at Copenhell. Will be one of my highlights, I hope.
You should really go to see John Cxnnor.
I really look forward to Copenhell because I think it's gonna be an incredible.
It's one of the most alternative lineups.
Never. And Mimi Barks, Chelsea Wolf. There's so much industrial. There's so much.
Mr. Bungle.
Mr. Bungle. Well, but Mr. Bungle.
I'm personally.
Okay. Mr. Bungle. I'm drooling to have an interview with Mike Patton. So let's leave it in my dream set. Let's see if editor Mike Patton.
I'm personally looking very much forward to see Night Versus. They're touring with Tool, the most interesting instrumental act, period, on that lineup.
It's really important to check up your music. You're also transitioning toward the English. You're also transitioning toward more international type of crowd because you had large success in England, large success in Germany. So you are not just a Danish band by now.
No.
So maybe soon we'll also come to South Europe. We'll come to all over the world.
We're playing Resurrection this year.
Galicia on the beach. Incredible metal festival. Check up Diorama. We already had a feature. Check up this group. Keep them posted. Find them on your favorite platform and
buy our vinyls, please.
Yeah, buy this vinyl. I mean, this is still a first print, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. And
but it's selling well.
They come in different colors.
Yeah. They come in different colors. Yeah, so now you also had the limited edition in different color green, right? Yeah. I didn't find those, and that Werrell style. So the black one was good for me. It's called